One thing my mom used to always tell me growing up is that you should always be aware of your surroundings because you never know who's actually watching you. And being a kid, I used to think that was just crazy until I got older and started realizing that people actually pay attention to everything that you do, including knowing when you are home and when you're not home. The reason why I'm saying this is because it goes along with today's story. 39-year-old Cassandra Callis, who lived in an apartment with her 17-year-old daughter, Maria Callis. They live in the La Cruz neighborhood in the Iztacalillo borough in Mexico City. Now, Cassandra was a good mother where she raised her daughter right, to a point where her daughter never disrespected her or talked back. Maria was one of those children that asked for permission for anything that she did. She was also known around the neighborhood as one of the people that walked her dogs on a daily basis. Maria wanted to go to college and study business administration as well as travel abroad. Maria would tell people that she hoped to land a career where she can take care of her mother and give her a better life, as well as buy her a house one day. But all of that changed on April 16th of 2024, because on that day, Cassandra had some errands to run, and so she asked Maria if she wanted to come along, and Maria had declined and wanted to stay home that day. Now, Cassandra trusted her daughter because she knew that she wouldn't answer the door for anybody, as well as the fact that she wasn't a problem child and she had no issues with leaving her by herself. So Cassandra told Maria that she'd be back in a couple of hours after she run the errands and they could spend the rest of the day together. So Maria told her mother she loved her and that she'll see her in a couple of hours. So after a couple of hours, Cassandra came back home and announced to her daughter she had returned. And upon announcing herself that she was home, she didn't hear a reply back. So she thought she was asleep until she heard like a strange noise come from her bedroom. So Cassandra called out to see if she was okay and still got no response back. So being the concerned parent, she would go ahead and go upstairs to her daughter's bedroom and knock on her door to see if she was okay. And if she didn't get a response back, she opened the door just in case her daughter was asleep. Upon entering the room, she would see a man standing directly in her daughter's bedroom right above her. Now, feeling that this man is trying to hurt her daughter, Cassandra would go straight into mama bear mode. Now, with the man seeing Cassandra walking into that room, he would try to escape out of that room, but Cassandra would go ahead and try to fight him. She would start kicking and scratching him to a point where this man was trying to get her off of him. Now, in the midst of him fighting her off, he would pull out a knife and stab Cassandra several times. He would stab her in the throat, lungs, and pelvic. Even at one point in the fight, he would try to throw her out of a second-story window. But somehow, by some miracle, she would grab onto the curtains to prevent her from being thrown out the window. In the midst of being outside the window, she would scream her lungs out. She would then pull herself back into the window and continue fighting the man. Now, the man would get tired of fighting her because he was trying to make his escape out of that apartment building. But fighting her delayed that, so he would pick her up and throw her like a rag doll across the room. She would land on the bed right next to her daughter, where she would pass out from her injuries. So once Cassandra had passed out, he had assumed that she had died from her injuries, to where he would try to run out the apartment. Now, in the process of him leaving out the apartment, he would run to a group of neighbors who had heard the commotion, and they would go ahead and subdue him. They would go ahead and hold him there until police had arrived. Now, a short while later, Cassandra would wake up and notice how serious her injuries were, but she knew that she had to do something to save her and her daughter. Now, Cassandra could hear the police move around outside, where she would muster the strength to get up and try to go downstairs and get some help. Now, once Cassandra would get outside, police would rush her trying to get her medical help because they saw how serious her injuries were. Now, while trying to get the help that she needs, police would ask her if she recognized the person that did this to her, and if she would say yes, she knew exactly who did this. She would tell them that the person that did this to her was her neighbor, 39-year-old Miguel Cortez Miranda. Now, Miguel lived in the same building as Cassandra, but Cassandra would go ahead and say that they only exchanged a few words with each other from time to time when they passed each other in the hallways. So both Cassandra and Maria were both sent to the hospital for their injuries, whereas Cassandra would go through hours of surgery to patch her up. Now, Cassandra would wake up after surgery, and the first thing she would ask was how her daughter was doing, in which she was hit with the startling news that her daughter did not make it, because it would come to find out that Miguel both R. Kelly her daughter as well as suffocated her. Now, Cassandra was devastated when she heard the news about what happened to her daughter. But the thing about it was, that wasn't the worst part, because they later found out that her daughter was victim number 7 of Miguel's. Because a few days after the incident, Mexican City authorities would go ahead and raid Miguel's house, where they found the remains of several different women. They also found a saw, CDs, a memory stick, and DNA evidence. They also found notebooks in his apartment where he allegedly detailed the crimes that he had committed. And along with all the evidence they also found 5 different identification cards from 5 different women who were actually still alive. So authorities are uncertain about how many victims he actually had. And the crazy thing about it, the media will go ahead and dub him as the Mexican Jeffrey Dahmer. Now, Miguel will go ahead and confess, saying that his crimes go as far as back as a decade, where he has been targeting women since 2012, 2015, and 2018. but was rumored to believe that most of his crimes took place between 2023 and 2024. Miguel was one of the people that you would not believe would do something like this because he worked as a pharmacobiologist chemist, was a person that worked in a pharmaceutical company making the drugs. He also spoke 3 different languages. As well, in his social media posts, he seemed like a well-traveled person because he would visit various places. Now, Miguel would go on to say that the reason why he did all this was because growing up, he was assaulted intimately by his father, and his mother and sister never did anything to protect him. And from all that trauma, he grew to hate women. And the crazy thing about it, all of his victims were either work colleagues, lab technicians, students, or even women of the night. He would even confess to unaliving his ex-girlfriend who went missing 9 years ago. Now, it was believed that Miguel was unstoppable because he never showed any signs of violent behaviors or aggression in his daily life. But the Mexico City authorities were met with criticism because it was believed that they didn't take missing women seriously and that they didn't look into the cases till the bodies start piling up. But in all their reports, they would say the crimes against women were down. Now, once this case became public, the families of the victims would question authorities, trying to figure out why they didn't investigate this a lot sooner. Like, why weren't interviews conducted when a missing person report came out? Because the crazy thing about it, Miguel wasn't the only serial killer around that time. Because in 2021, a serial killer was caught in Mexico City after he piled up over 19 bodies. The bodies were hacked up and buried underneath his house. And the craziest thing about it, the only reason why he was caught was because his final victim was the wife of a police commander. Both the serial killer and the commander's wife knew each other on a personal level. So when the police commander's wife had went missing, he had looked at the CCTV footage and found that his wife had went to the man's house but never came out. So the police commander went over there to confront him, where he walked in on him actually hacking the body up. And in 2018, there was another serial killer that was responsible for over 10 women disappearing. And the reason why he was captured was because he was caught pushing a dismembered body in a baby carriage, where he had dumped most of his victims in vacant lots. Now, as of right now, Miguel is being held in police custody on femicide and attempted femicide. And if you don't know what femicide is, that is the unaliving of women. As of right now, there is no current updates on the outcome of this case, but seeing how it's in another country, there's a slight chance that it may be kept quiet. So that concludes our story for today. If you like more stories like this, go ahead and stay tuned to my channel, because I can post at least once or twice a week.